Let's begin again from the beginning of Perek Daled, the fourth Perek. Halakeach peris mimisha she'eno neman ala maisers. If you buy fruits from someone who's not trusted about meiser, v'shakach la'asrons. Normally that's no problem. You buy from him, you take off meiser yourself, and you're okay. But you forgot to do that, and now it's Shabbos, and the Rabbanan made an enactment that you can't take off meiser on Shabbos because it looks like you're fixing the fruits, and if you fix fruits on Shabbos, you might come to fix other things on Shabbos, which would possibly involve malacha. So there's a way out. Shaloi b'Shabbos. On Shabbos, you can ask the person you bought it from if he took off meiser, and we'll trust him because since it's Shabbos, people are less likely to lie. It's Shabbos. It's a more spiritual day, so we'll be more willing to trust him. And then Yechal Piv, you can eat based on his response if he tells you that he in fact did take off meiser. However, Chashcha Moitzi Shabbos, once it gets dark on Saturday night, Lo Yechal, you can't eat anymore Ad Sheyaser until you take off meiser, because we're afraid if you keep eating, you might come to ask him not on Shabbos and trust him then also. So we say you'll only trust him on Shabbos, he'll only come to rely on what he says on Shabbos. Lo Matzoi, if you didn't find the person you purchased them from, however, Amrle Acher, someone else told him, who's also not trustworthy al meiseris, Musar and Hain. Also, Yechal Piv, you could trust him also on Shabbos. Just people who aren't trusted generally on Shabbos, we trust them. But again, the same limitation. Chashcha, once it gets dark on Maseches Shabbos on Saturday night, Lo Yechal, you can no longer eat Ad Sheyaser until you take off the meiser. Okay. Another leniency. Trumas meiser shel Demai. If you took off that 1/100th that has to go to the Kohen.
What line are we on here?
Trumas meiser shel Demai. It's towards the end of the Mishnah.
That
1/100th that's supposed to go to the Kohen, you took it off, shechazar l'mkayma, and it went back to its place. It fell back in. So now you have a big problem. Now 1% of this whole mixture belongs to the Kohen, but that 1% I have to treat like truma, and only a Kohen can eat it. So that's going to be a big loss if I'm going to have to give or sell this whole thing to a Kohen. So there, Shimon Shizuri says, Af b'chol, even not on Shabbos, you can ask the person you bought it from if he took meiser, v'aychal piv, and he says he did, you could trust him because here it would be a major loss if you can't. So here again, they were lenient. Okay, Mishnah Beis. Hamader es chaver sheyechel atzlai. If someone else really wants you to come eat by him, and he makes a neder, that he makes a vow that if you won't come to eat by me this Shabbos, then I make a vow that you can't get any benefit from me or something of that nature. So it's a pressure tactic that seems to have been more common in the Mishnayos than in common times. But someone who really wants you to come eat by them. But the guest does not trust the potential host about his status of taking meiser. So the Mishnah says, for the first week, which they understand to mean the week of Sheva Brachos, if his child got married, that week we have a leniency. You could eat by him, I assume, again, because we don't want to, despite the fact that we're making somewhat of a class system over here of Neman and Eno Neman, we don't want to make too big of a rift between them, so we want people to be able to go to each other's weddings and Sheva Brachos. So for the first week, that there you could eat there, even though you don't trust him about meiser. But you need him to specifically tell you that meiser was taken, because that makes it a little bit better. Because again, we always coming back to this idea. Most people really do take off meiser, so it's only a minority that don't. So with other things, we're willing to be lenient. So here again, if he'll tell you he took off meiser, then you could trust him. However, b'Shabbos Shniya, after Sheva Brachos, af pisha nadar mimenu hana, even if the person says you're not going to be able to get any benefit at all from me if you won't come, still lo yechel, you can't go ad sheyaser until you make sure that meiser was taken. And Mishnah Gimel, Rabbi Eliezer says, Ein adam sarach likris shem l'meiser ani shel Demai. The meiser ani, the 10% that in the 3rd and 6th year goes to the poor people, that you don't need to even designate, because even someone who's not going to give it to the poor, he doesn't lose anything by separating it and fixing up all the produce, and he'll just keep it for himself. Either way, he's not giving it to the poor. No, kari shame, you do have to designate it. But you don't have to separate it. Meaning you don't have to actually give it to the poor, like we said before, because once it's been separated, it becomes purely a monetary judgment. And with monetary things, always the person who wants to make a claim has to have some proof. And here, obviously, the poor have no proof that Meiser was not taken from the produce, so you'll be able to keep it, but you do have to designate it. Okay, let's break here.